Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Just Make It Pretty podcast. Today, we are talking about targeting and real data that can actually drive marketing results. So, I'm really excited about this topic. As you know, I talk about data a lot, but I have a guest with me today that is actually going to break this down from a different angle than we ever have before. So, I'm super excited. So, if you are interested in real data and creating targeting strategies that actually work, stick around because this episode is going to be for you. Welcome to the Just Make It Pretty podcast, the slightly unhinged marketing podcast for home builders and beyond. I'm your host, Sarah Haynes, also known as the Pixel Wizard, and my goal is to tackle the tough stuff that goes in behind the scenes in marketing and offer actionable tips, creative insights, and a little bit of humor to spark some creativity. I'm so glad you're here. Now let's get started. My guest today, I'm so excited to welcome Christine Blacklidge. She is the VP of Business Development over at Audience Town, and I have had the pleasure of meeting with her a couple times at some conferences. She is just absolutely lovely, and I'm so excited to welcome you. So, hi, Christine. Welcome on the show.
Hello. I'm so excited to be here, and I love talking about Audience Town. Just happy to be a guest. Thanks for inviting me.
Of course, I'm very excited to also learn a little bit more about you and Audience Town in general. So, I always like to start our episodes like this, but share a little bit of your background. What led you here? How
Yes.
did you get into home building?
Yes. Okay. I don't want to divulge my age, but at any rate, I've been in the new home building space for 20 years. Not recently, it's been a year now. July was a year since I've joined Audience Town. And prior to Audience Town, I was at BDX for 15 years. So a super long time there. So a lot of my same customers I had from when I was at BDX. And then before BDX, I was at the Dallas Morning News, where I'm in Dallas, where I managed the online real estate team. And then before, now you're really going to be able to figure out like how old I am. I was at realtor.com and managed the inside sales team. So that was really more resale. And then when I went over to the Dallas Morning News, it was a mix of resale and new. And then of course BDX was only new construction. So what's exciting to me about Audience Town is that when I interviewed for this position and I heard what they did, and they said they were talking about, we're a sales marketing analytics platform, and we can actually show home builders actually what their audience is doing, people that are going to their website, what they're doing. And I just couldn't believe it, because that is, the big hole. Like you can, at
Mm.
BDX, for example, we had amazing reporting, right? But there was so much that we didn't report on. And that piece that we did not report on is what builders wanted the most. And it was hard even for us to justify sometimes, why our product was so great, because there were missing pieces of information. So when I interviewed with Audience Town, they said, yeah, that's what we do. Oh my gosh, this is like, where have you been?
Yeah,
So,
for sure. Yeah, I will say I'm not the best at math, but it sounds like you're probably like 29, right?
oh, absolutely. I was like a child labor worker.
I remember hearing about Audience Sound for the first time, and I remember having that same reaction. I'm like, oh, like this is like everything that everybody's always asking for. But at the same time, like every time I feel like I've talked to you or someone from your team, I'm like, oh, that's something new. That's something more. So I feel like this is going to be a really good conversation for me too, because I think there's a lot out there that like a lot of builders don't know they could even be looking at, or they don't know where to find it. So I think that you guys do an awesome job over there, and I'm excited to dive in.
Yeah, awesome. And I will just to add to that, so we do demos with builders also. We go to these conferences, right? And we talk to people at conferences like the recent conference that you and I were at. And so we talk to builders all day long, every day. And I will tell you that every single time there's a point in the conversation where they will lean in. If it's a Zoom call, they will lean in and look at the screen. They'll be like, wait, how can you do this? How is this possible? Is this like legal? Is this like FHA compliant? There is always this moment when that happens. And I love it. I love that part of my job.
That's so funny. Is this even legal? And when
Mhm.
that kind of comes up, is that, what kind of data are you talking about there? What are they seeing that they've never seen
Yeah.
before?
So first of all, just to give a little bit of background. So at Audience Town, so we are a sales marketing analytics platform. We are built only for the new home building industry. So typically one of the questions that we ask home builders is, okay, is data important to you? And usually if they are on a call with us, usually data is important, either that or they just want me to stop calling them. So they're like, fine, just do the demo already. But usually data is important. And then there's a pretty big variant in terms of, you'll talk to more sort of sophisticated, and maybe sophisticated isn't a great word, but a more data heavy builder where they have, of course, they have GA4, right? And they might have, and then they have data from their CRM, and then they have data from different platforms. So we love builders like that because we automatically know that they love data, they value data. So what Audience Town brings to the table is our strength is where GA4 drops off. GA4, Google Analytics, they are not built for the home building industry. They are built for every industry. So because Audience Town is built specifically for the new home building industry, we report on everything that is relevant. We report on over 4,000 different attributes. Now, what's important to know is that of those 4,000 attributes, there is really probably like a bag full that are the most important and common to most home builders. But if somebody out of the blue says, you know what, I really want to know how many people in my community have goldfish. We probably have that. Actually, we do know how many people have fish. So we have access to over 280 million adults across the US, 120 million households. And every day we get 300 billion bits of data that come through at us every single day. It's just like
So
absolutely
much.
overwhelming, right?
Yeah.
And builders will say, we'll go through this whole presentation and demo, and they'll say, where do you get this data? Like, where does this come from? And so we have so many sources. We have over 250 different sources where we get our data. So we get it from all of the credit reporting bureaus, of course. We get it from the municipalities. We get it from American Express. We get it from so many different sources where we buy and we license. So we buy the data, we get some data for free. So when a builder says, can I like get all this information on my own? If you can get it, can't I get it? Like I'm a ginormous builder, top 10 builder. Why can't I get that data? And you could get it. Yeah, I guess you could go and you could license it all and pay for it and spend all the money. You definitely could do it. But then what are you going to do with all these spreadsheets? So what we have is we have something that's proprietary to Audience Town called a WinGen. And a WinGen is, we call it a WinGen because it's like when people are moving, who is predicted to move. But all this data, this 300 bits of pieces of data that come in every day, gets fed into this thing called a WinGen, and it spits it out in this very understandable format. So anything that you're trying to find out about people that are visiting your website or engaging with you is, you don't have to be a data scientist to try to read these reports. It's really super understandable.
Yeah, that I think is one of the biggest like fears that I've heard is like they're like people and myself included. I'm like, okay, if I get all this, am I gonna know what to do with it? Am I gonna know, what it's even saying? And there are times where people will be presenting things to me and I'm like, but what does this even do for me? Like, why do I care about this?
Yeah,
And so I think that having a platform where that kind of stuff can be demystified is, what a lot of people need, especially in home building. So do you feel like what these builders that you're going and talking to, do you feel like they have the data and they're just underutilizing it, or are they really searching for more?
yeah. So they have some of it. They have some of it. So what they don't have are the pieces that are really, for our industry, the most important pieces. Okay, so What we can tell you, what we can tell home builders is we can tell you things like, we know, Sarah, for example, for you, until you consent. And by the way, I want to make sure I say this. Everything that we report on is all pre-form fill. So this is not like you have to fill out a form and then we're going to give you this information. We know as soon as we put a tag on your website and Sarah Hayes goes to a builder's website, we know, and how you come across to us is number 457689949999991. So you come over as a randomized number. We know who you are, but we know the value of the home that you live in. We know if you own, if you rent. We know if you do rent, how many bedrooms you rent. We know what your credit score range is. We know how many pets you have. We know what kind of pets you have. We know that you have dogs or that you have cats. We know that you're interested in cooking. We know that you're also interested in bike riding. So we know all these things about you that Google and other platforms, they just don't report on. And the reason why it's so important is from financial aspect, for example, like household income, right? And credit score. Like you are spending money and you're marketing to people who may or may not be qualified to even buy one of your homes. So what we can do is we can say, hey, you know what? We see, and it goes all the way down to like at the keyword level. We can look at your keyword, like your Google AdWords, and we can say, hey, you know what? You are spending money on this particular ad word and it's not driving the right audience. You're spending a lot of money on this AdWords. You're getting a lot of clicks, but you're not getting people that can even afford your home or even have the credit score to be able to qualify to buy one of your homes. So what my team does is my team says, hey, you know what? Why don't you do this? Why don't you dial back? Yes, you are getting clicks. You're not getting the right audience. So why don't you dial back on that ad word and move it over to this ad word? And so effectively, we're able to save builders, 20% in their marketing. So they save money, but we're able to help them get a more qualified lead.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
So basically, like you're taking all the information that the internet already knows about me and
Mhm.
putting that into a way that builders can actually use that for smarter targeting through like Google Ads. That's what I'm
Well,
understanding.
that's an example. I'll give you another great example. So we had a builder and she saw, and everything that we report on, by the way, is at the community level. So when you go into our dashboards, we report the community level. Why? We report at the community level because we know that home buyers in one particular community could look entirely different than than a community that you may have, you know, 3 to 5 miles away.
Mhm.
So everything that you see on this dashboard is broken down at the community level. So you know that this audience, this group of people that are visiting your website at this particular community look different than over here across town. And what was your question?
What else are you doing with that data? Because I hear like
Yes,
that.
yes, yes. Okay, here's a great example. National Home Builder,
Mhm.
through our data, saw that in one particular community, 60% of the people that were coming and looking at homes in this community were actually dog owners, right? So she saw that and she did a really quick pivot in her creative because in her mudroom, one of the options was a dog shower in the mudroom, right? So she did a quick pivot, changed up her creative, started showing dog showers as an upgrade in the mudroom, literally took, saw this data on a Thursday, changed up the creative. The following week started running ads with showing the dog shower. And literally overnight, all of a sudden, people are coming in and they are asking about the dog shower. People are coming into the sales center with dogs, on leashes because now it's, oh, they're dog friendly, you know? So it completely changed the dynamic of this community. And now all of a sudden, dog shower upgrades are like going through the roof. There were even people that were writing about it on social media saying, oh gosh, you got to go see their dog showers. And it's was so much less than even what I thought. So it's
Mhm.
really taking that data. And that's what's so great about it is that you don't need to stop everything you're doing. You can make a simple little tweak to creative because you're responding to something that you saw in the data and change overnight, change the traffic and the audience that's coming into your sales center.
It's so interesting because I know using data for ads and all of that, like that's the familiar thing. But I think a lot of people forget how much you can drive other decisions using data. And like in that example, like she could now go or they can take that team, they can now take that information and be like, oh, we're going to do a whole social media campaign. I can do TikTok videos about this. I can do,
Yes.
blog posts about this. We could send out emails. So now you're making all of your marketing decisions based on something that you know to be true. And like you're able to really capitalize on that. So it's a lot more than, okay, I've got this one platform that gives me info for my ads. Done. No, it's going to really help you in so many ways in your marketing. So I think that's just something a lot
Absolutely.
of people forget, or they just don't realize how much you can build a story around the data that you have.
100%. And, and again, I keep saying, GA4 because it is the most common sort of everybody uses that, right? And sometimes at the beginning of a conversation or when we're trying to get an appointment to show a builder something, they'll say, oh, I get all of that from GA4. And we say,
Yeah.
no, 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 you don't. We're going to show you what you don't get. And there is so much amazing information that you can get, and it's really eye-opening. And I would say that before Audience Town, you know, builders were making sort of educated guesses
Mhm.
about who was really truly, who really are their buyers, who's really looking. And you can get some of that. You certainly can get some of that from GA4 and some of the other platforms, but you're not going to get these other details. And something else that's really important is we do, and I have people ask us all the time, like, because we are a third party, everything that we do is very much in an FHA compliant level, right? We have probably more lawyers than most companies do because it is so important to stay compliant. We are able to report on who's coming to your website and the actions they're taking. We are able to report on that. And then builders, of course, are also, obligated to stay within FHA guidelines. And then they can take that data and then they can use that as they see fit and in a legal compliant way as well.
Sure. Yeah. Oh no, that's always important, right? I'm
Yeah.
sure the is this even legal question. It's funny, but also it's a real thing. You
Oh,
don't
yeah. Oh,
So
it really is. Yeah.
yeah. So what is if you were to choose like a tactic that you wish more marketers knew or used about ways that their data can help them, what would that be?
Yeah, I would say the first thing, and one of the most fun things I think is as soon as we put a tag, as soon as a builder says, "Yeah, let's go." And so we're partners with Google, so they go into Google Tag Manager and select Audience Town, and then all of a sudden the tag is up on their website, and we start collecting data on everybody that comes right at that second, right? So from day one, we start collecting intel and data on an audience. And one of the most sort of fun things for me is when we show that first report. It's, oh my gosh, it's a much older audience than what I thought. And all along, we have been targeting this much younger audience, and who's actually coming and visiting is actually a much older audience. And not only is it much older, but they actually have a lot more money than what we thought that they had. And they're living in homes where they have a lot of equity in their homes, where they actually are like trading up, not trading down, or first time home buyers. And so what's really interesting is to be able to show real data and then compare against the audience that they thought that they were getting. And so then, they start saying, gosh, now I understand why We have people coming into our sales centers and they're really not that qualified audience that we've wanted. And then changing up creative and changing up marketing strategy that match that demographic that's actually coming and shopping their homes.
Do you find that a lot? Like that
A lot.
builders think that they are marketing to one audience and they're really not?
A lot. You and I, right? We talked about personas, for example. And here's one of the things, and this is just very common. Sorry about that. That's very common, is that we find a lot of builders that build this persona of who they think is their customer, who they think it is. And it's almost like a wish list in a way. And that is not what a persona is. It's not a wish list, right? It is really saying, this is my product, and this is who I think is right for my product, and then going after and getting more of those people. And what we find so many times is that the persona that people are creating, they're just creating this sort of wish list. And when you compare it to the data, to the actual data, it's just data. We're not creating anything. This is just very black and white. It doesn't match what they originally created. So an exercise that we do sometimes, we say, so tell us about your buyers. Tell us about who you think your buyers are. And sometimes what they do is they get what they know from their sold homes. But again, they only get a fraction of it. They don't get all the pieces. They don't know, for example, the entire customer journey. A
Yeah.
lot of times, they'll say, oh, this person came in through XYZ platform, and so we're going to give them credit. When in reality, what we can say is, you know what, actually, this person has been on this journey for the past 15 months. And they started here. They went to your website, and then they went to Facebook, and then they clicked on a Google AdWords, and then they went to Zillow, and then they came back, and then they went back to your website. And we can tell them exactly what that entire journey looked like, and then help that builder create the real persona.
Yeah. Wow, that's crazy because I've been on that side of let's build a persona. And like we didn't always have, all of this data when we were doing
No,
that. That's incredible. Now, is there a way for builders to get that kind of in advance? Because like you're going to build this persona like when you're branding the community or things like
yeah.
that. Like, how can you make sure that you're doing this before you start?
I think that we can look at sold data. So we can look at your sold data. So we do something now where we have recently launched a new product. It's our attribution. It's like an add-on where if you have HubSpot, for example, right, we are integrated with HubSpot. So now what happens, I gave you an example of saying, that you, Sarah Hayes, are a randomized number in our system. As soon as we integrate with your CRM, we are now able to actually show if you, Sarah Hayes, has you've registered, you have authorized use in their CRM system, then we are able to actually go and look at the data about you personally. And once we have this CRM integration, we can then start to look at history of people that have bought. And we can say, you know what, this is the age range of the people that have purchased in the past 6 months in these particular communities. And we know that this new community that we're launching is, 5 miles away or 3 miles away. And even though it won't be the identical
Mhm.
audience, we know that it won't be identical, you will be able to start to calculate and be able to create until you actually start having the real data in that community. You are going to have a pretty good guess of what to expect from
Yeah.
the data that you already have in your CRM system.
Yeah, a much better guess than you
Yeah,
actually just, I've got a gut feeling that this is going to be the demographic.
exactly. And that's how we help,
Yeah.
you know? So we do this in a very non-nerdy way. I always say that in a non-nerdy way. We have some absolutely brilliant data scientists that look at this stuff all day long, and then our job in sales, of course, I'm sure you can relate to this, is we have to give all this information in a very understandable
Yeah.
way to
Yeah.
builders. And that's what I think we do that the best.
Yeah, that is true because it can get really overwhelming and nobody wants to have to feel like, oh, I need to become a data scientist in order to like make this happen for my company. Like that's just
Exactly. And something else that we do too, I think is really beneficial is that so you always have access to go in 24/7 and you can pull your own reports. And what we find is that it's not just marketing that uses the data from Audience Town. Like we have people like land teams now that are logging in. We have a market assessment. So through our partnership with CoreLogic. So not only do we have this data on these 280 million people across the US, now because of our partnership with CoreLogic, we have data on every single property across the United States that we layer both. So we have people like the land teams that are logging in to see what's going on, with the community across the way that they may be thinking about buying land over there or buying some open lots. And then we have like CFOs going in and like pulling different information. Then we have, sales leadership going in and pulling. So there's a lot of different uses with Audience Town with different people within the same organization actually using the data.
and that's when data can really like pull together a team too. Like
Oh yeah,
we all talk about that all the time. Is we need, sales and marketing need to talk and we need better communication and all of these things. But it's
always.
a really nerdy stance, but it's like data can be that bridge for you if you use it right.
Yeah, and you know what? Data is really sexy. It really is. It's not when it's like on a bunch of spreadsheets.
Yeah.
When we go in and we're doing a demo and we say we land on the page, which is just like the dashboard page, it's wow, it's really like formatted really nicely. It's really easy to understand. So I think that's one, we're all so busy, right? And like sometimes we hear things like, I just don't have time to do this, to learn a new system. And we're like, listen, we are the easy button. So our team, so we have our customer service team, we are committed to make sure that builders that buy it, that they actually use it. So we've taken actually one step further and we send bi-monthly reports of things because our team is looking at this data all day, every day. And they know, oh wow, this has changed. Like this data has changed. And I should let them know that. So twice a month, we send out these reports to every builder that we have. And it's a really easy, understandable report. Hey, we noticed that there was a change in this keyword this month, and maybe you might want to change that. Or, hey, we noticed that the credit score has changed, or we have noticed that household income is maybe too low for this community. So we highlight these things, not the whole report, but we just highlight things and we send that over in a really easy to understandable format. And then we see what happens is the marketing people, they forward it on and they forward it on and they forward it on. And next thing you know, there's 40 opens from different, people within the organization that are absorbing different pieces of that information that's most important to them. So it's not hard. It's not like a new job. It's not like you have to learn to be a data scientist. It's not like you have to learn how to build spreadsheets because that's not what it is. All that stuff is like built in the background and delivered in a really easy to understand format.
Yeah, that's so nice because I swear, like some of these spreadsheets, like my job came down to you have to make this spreadsheet, I would be homeless. Like it would be awful.
Forget it. No, forget pivot tables and all of that stuff. No. Mm-mm.
So I have to ask too, and this is a little bit of a segue, but everybody's talking about AI and what it's doing to our clicks and all of our
Yeah.
analytics are crazy. And, I think there's a lot of curiosity around it, but there's also a lot of fear. And so I'm wondering, how does AI impact what you're doing and how are you understanding it? Like
Yeah.
how it's
Yeah.
affecting?
First of all, it's and sometimes I don't know if this has ever happened to you, but have you ever wondered if AI can read your mind? Like you'll be thinking about shoes, right? Like you just didn't even say the word shoes. I just said the word shoes, so now for sure I'm going to be getting shoe ads. But have you ever been like thinking about or a place where you want to go on vacation, and then the next thing you know, it's like you start getting ads on this hotel and this place where you wanted to go on vacation, right? And it's
Mm-hmm.
really scary. And I would say we talk about this internally, like Meta does this really well, right? They have got it so pinpointed that AI needs very little information about you before they can start to completely just put this whole profile around who you are, right? And then it's helpful because you've probably heard, especially with this, the younger generation, like when somebody walks into a sales center or even in to buy a refrigerator at Best Buy, for example, consumers expect that you know about them already. You should know about them already, right? If somebody just walks in and says, "What brought you in today?" That is old school. And if you've been in this business, our industry for long enough, that is how it used to be.
Mm-hmm.
People would walk into a sales center and somebody would say, "So what brings you in today?" And what would that person say? The person would say, "Oh, I was just driving by and I saw a sign," whether there was a sign or there wasn't.
Yeah.
Today with AI, it puts a lot of pressure on not just our industry, but every industry really, to be able to instantly know. You don't have to know that they're looking at a 3-bedroom, 3-bathroom in this price range, but you do need to have some intel on who's coming in. And you can use all of this data through AI to collectively gather intel on your audience and of your home buyers, what that age range is and what the household income typically is. So when somebody walks into your sales center, you can start off right off the bat and say, "You know what, I think you might be interested in, this model that's in this price range. You have kids. We're an A-rated school district, right? We know you have two sons and they play sports. And I'm just using Texas as an example, right? If you're a home builder in Texas, in some of these school districts, that like football is really super important, right? So the family, if you've got boys and they play sports, that might be something that you're interested in. So I think AI, what it does, and again, companies like Meta does a really super great job of through AI, delivering very relevant information to their users. And that's going to happen to us. And if we don't, as an industry, embrace AI and start responding how we have to. Our home building industry historically, as you know, Sarah, has been behind. We've been behind with technology through COVID. We as an industry had to step up quickly with technology, and we did that really well. And we did a quick pivot, but we're going to have to do the same with AI, certainly.
Yeah. For sure. And I think a lot of people, they want to, they're just not sure how. And, like we were together at the Shore Conference a few weeks ago. When we're filming this, it was a few weeks ago, but a lot of the conversation was just like, I know AI is out there and I want to use it, but what do I do? But then the other side of it was, we heard, oh, website clicks are going to be down, 40% next year. And, you could just feel the whole room just be like, oh, no. So I think people are not only afraid of losing this traffic to AI, but also what is going to happen with our data? Are we still going to be able to see them if they're not clicking our ads, if they're not, coming to our site or
Yeah,
whatever? So it's just a big unknown, I think.
it is a big unknown. And you know what? It goes also in line with, and this is always sort of like the elephant in the room, right? But it's just the truth is that if you look at email leads, for example, right? If you look at email leads over the past like 5 years, they've just gone in a decline, right? When was the last time that you personally sent in a lead form and said, you fill out all this information and you say, "Contact me." Like I don't even know if I've ever done that in my life. Seriously, right? It's like,
Yeah.
I'm buying a refrigerator or a car or whatever. I am going to figure it all out. I'm not going to send an email and ask you to contact me. Not going to do that. I'm going to figure it. I'm going to call you. I'm going to go in and I'm going to do all my homework. And that's what's going to happen. So email leads have actually gone down. And what I find is that, especially right now, the way our economy is right now, is that builders are still wanting more leads, more leads. Maybe if I throw more money at more leads. And what we're saying is, listen, what we can do, we don't deliver leads. That's not what we do. But what we do is we can help you get a more qualified lead. We can help you get less of the people that can't afford your homes or that don't even have the credit score to apply for a loan to buy one of your homes. And we can help direct you to the places where the qualified audience is. So we have to get off this more leads, and focus more on getting, and through AI, we can do this too. We can know more about the people that are looking at our homes and get more of those people and more
Yeah.
of the, and make and more of those qualified people.
Yeah. No, that's really smart. That's really smart to be like, I can get more of the people that actually care than, and the more data is going to be able to get you there. What do you
Yeah,
feel like, if you could tell people one thing, tell builders one thing of this is what you should do to
yeah,
make sure that you're prepped
yes,
and like what data you need, what's that one thing?
yeah. Okay, so here's the analogy, right? The analogy is, I'm just going to give you an example, a personal example. So when I was pregnant with my second son, which was a long time ago, at the beginning of the pregnancy, I weighed myself. I'd go to the doctor's office and I would weigh myself, or I would get weighed at the doctor's office. And then after the second month, I gained a tremendous amount of weight. I don't even, it was so much weight with the second baby. Okay. And starting like in the second and the third appointment, I started telling my doctor, don't tell me how much I weigh. I've had a really bad day. I don't want to know. Right. And I really manipulated this whole system where I never knew. And I
Mm.
remember my neighbor next door, who was just this very sweet lady. She's a personal friend now. And she said, so how much, getting toward the end of the pregnancy, she said, so how much weight have you gained, with this pregnancy? And I said, you know what? I don't know. I don't know. I don't care. I don't look. I don't everything. And I remember the next day she came back over and she said, you know what, Christine, I was thinking like, you might want to know. And that was just her very sweet way of saying
Mhm.
you might want to know. And that's the analogy. It's need to know what their data looks like. They need to know. And they need to know more than just what they're getting today. Because if you're only getting GA4 and if you're only getting limited information from your CRM system, it's not enough. You need to know who is coming to your party. That's what you need to know. And so my recommendation is dive in deep. Don't be afraid of the data. Don't be afraid of learning who the audience is. It's actually coming and engaging with your product. And then pivot to meet those people in the middle of the road.
Yeah, it was great, great advice. I will say
Yeah.
I did the exact same thing when I was pregnant. I would stand backwards on the scale. I'm like, do not tell me.
Do not. And you know what? It's like, old habits, but like even sometimes now, when you go to the doctor for your like annual physical, and the first thing I'm thinking is, oh, God, I have to be weighed today. I just don't even want to know. My pants are heavy, my shoes are heavy, you know.
I feel you. And I love that
Yeah.
analogy connecting it to data because I do think
Yeah.
that a lot of people, it's just this thing. It's I know it's there, but I just don't want to look.
I don't want to look. Yeah. Because you know what happens when you look at data and you really see who it is, who the people are that are coming to your website and engaging with your product. And when you really know and you're transparent and you say this is it, then you have to do something.
Yeah.
If it's with whether it's your marketing, the money you're spending in Google AdWords, and maybe you're spending too much money and you're not getting the right audience, you have to do something. And I think sometimes builders are like, I don't want one more thing to do, you know?
I know. Well, and everything changes every single day in home building.
Oh
So
yeah,
it's like you're always reinventing something. So I
totally.
understand, but I feel like if you can take that data and actually service your buyers better and give them what they actually need and what they're looking for, like your customer experience gets better, your sales get better. your marketing
Yeah.
strategies and your budget can get better because you're not wasting money places. So
Yes.
there's only benefits, but you do have to take that one scary step to just face the facts. This is what I'm going to need to do.
Imagine here's like a great success story for you. This is probably January-ish. We had a builder that's been an advocate of Audience Town, and she said, "You're never going to believe it." She said, "I was actually able to reduce how much I spent this month, and our conversion was actually up." So what I did was I cut back on these channels that weren't delivering what I needed them to deliver. So I cut back on those channels as an experiment, and our conversions were actually up. And so she was able to take that into her executive team meeting and tell her CEO and CFO, "Hey guys, guess what? Last month I spent this and this was our conversion. This month I spent this and this was the conversion." They're like, "How'd you do that?" She's like, "Through data."
She looked
So
so good in that
yeah,
moment. That's
yeah.
amazing. That's awesome. If there are listeners out there, and I'm sure there are, that would
Mhm.
like to have this for themselves and they want to connect with you, what would be the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, so the best way, they can email me if they'd like to at Christine at Audience Town. That's one way. Or another way, you can call me, you can text me. Text is the best because I respond quickly all the time. And my number is 972-837-0328. And if they forget all of this, they can always reach out to you too, Sarah, and I'm sure you can send them my information.
Absolutely. You can always comment on the podcast episode or wherever you're seeing clips, and I will direct you in the right way. I also will try to put those links and everything in the description box so you can
Great.
reference quickly there. And definitely do that, guys. Like, data is going to help you so much. And with all of the new things that Audience Town has, I just can't imagine how we could transform so many home builders, marketing, and other operations with that. So thank you so much for being here and
You're
sharing all of this.
welcome.
I am excited. I'm leaving this episode just very excited for the future.
Oh, I'm so glad. And I can't wait to see you at the next conference.
Absolutely. I hope that we have all the conferences together.
Too. I do too. Thanks so much for having me on. And it's just, it's a topic obviously I'm like passionate about. It was something that I needed before in my past roles and I never had. And so I'm grateful to be part of such a great team and part of such a kind of trailblazing company. So thanks for having me on.
Awesome. Yeah, absolutely. Everyone, thank you for listening in. If you have any questions for Christine, please don't hesitate to reach out and like this episode. Come back for next week. We'll have another guest, and I would love to hear what you're thinking. So drop us a comment. It helps our algorithm, but also gives me an opportunity to connect with you as well as Christine if you'd like to connect with her. Do all those things and come back next week. Thank you so much for being here, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye, everybody.
Bye.